There we are. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Virtual Campfire. I'm Melanie Carr, Vice President of Escapees RV Club.
And I'm Travis Carr, the President of Escapees RV Club, and we're excited to be back. We missed last Virtual Campfire, so we're excited to be back with Shawn Loring, our Escapees CEO. So, Shawn, if you want to give a little quick introduction of yourself.
Sure. I'm the CEO of the Escapees RV Club. I'm also the attorney for the club, and gosh, I've been hanging around the community for two and a half decades, something like that, which is amazing because I'm only 27 years old.
I know, that's so weird.
Yeah, very odd.
Got good genes, I guess.
Yeah,
I moisturize a lot.
That's good.
But if you're joining us for the first time, this is our virtual campfire. It rotates pages every other week, so we do this twice a month, once on Escapees page, and then 2 weeks later on the Escapers page. So the next one will be on the Escapers Facebook page.
Yeah. And if you haven't joined us for one before, they kind of range in topics. Like you said, they alternate between our pages on the main Facebook pages. But we cover a wide range of topics. We'll do interviews with community members. We'll try to put some education in there where we can. And also you can just learn a little bit about the club and some of our services, kind of like what we're going to do today. So
yeah, I was just going to say, I think this episode of Virtual Campfire is pretty much all three of those. A little interview, a little club news, and a little bit of education, I think. So,
so it should be a good one. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we have a couple club items just to catch everybody up on things that have been happening lately. Our marketing team has kind of restructured how our virtual events have happened. And now you'll find something going on our pages every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. So just check out the Facebook pages and look at the event calendar on there to see what's happening. And you can catch most of the replays if you can't join on Wednesday at that time and you want to see what happened. You can view the replays on the Facebook pages or the YouTube channel, the Escapees YouTube channel.
So next week, we actually have a fun we're all very excited about. We're going to have JP Smith, our Escapers Convergence Director, host a little virtual happy hour, and we're going to do community member cocktail making. So yeah, we're going to have some people come on and share their favorite cocktails, how to make them, and have a good time. Yeah. So that'll be next week.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And recently, something that all three of us are very excited about, we celebrated on July 4th, the 42nd anniversary for Escapees RV Club.
Yay!
So it's a really fun time, and we're so excited to have you all a part of this journey with us and be part of our club, whether you're on your RVing journey or just looking at your RVing journey. We're glad you found us. And for everybody who participated in the marketing challenge, it was the hashtag 42 years of Escapees. Thanks for sharing your photos, your memories. It was amazing to see all that's happened over the years.
Yep. So obviously, we couldn't do Escapade, which was going to be our big hurrah for our birthday this year, but for obvious reasons, that wasn't going to happen. So we kind of did this in place, and really, as you know, we really look forward to the great times ahead. We know that someday we'll come out of this, and we'll all get back together and be even happier the next time we see one another. So we really can't wait for that to happen. So
good times are ahead.
At some point. We don't know when yet. We don't know when, no promises.
We miss everybody.
But we obviously are desperately looking forward to it. So.
Yeah. Well, that kind of wraps it up for just our general items that we had to talk about. So let's kind of move into what the focus of this conversation will be today, which is another thing that Escapees is very proud of and that we celebrate often is our advocacy. And Shawn, you're the Advocacy Director. So I know there's some things you want to cover and explain to the community today. So take it away.
This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that just professionally, I'm very proud of what we do. And really, it centers around protecting the rights of RVers, particular emphasis on full-time RVers. Mm-hmm. And we, some of our advocacy efforts were very vocal about. We engage the community in, but there's a lot that we do behind the scenes that really the community never knows about. There's probably in a month, there's a good 3 to 6 advocacy issues cooking at any given time. So we're very much that duck treading water where it's all calm on the surface, but the little feet are going like crazy. Well, that's kind of how our advocacy program works, and it takes a lot of different forms. There's advocacy that we engage in, on the federal level, on the state level, local levels, and there's a difference in our approaches between advocacy where we're dealing with a government entity versus private companies. So how does that look? What does that manifest as? You get different approaches, but depending on what the actual topic is that we're going after. If it's something federal, we're very concerned about things that are federal that impact the RVing community, because what tends to happen is you have a federal regulation and states will borrow that language. So all of a sudden you're seeing language that shows up federally appear in state and local mandates, and then that starts to become more difficult. So we give a lot of attention to that. There are other times when we're less directly involved in tackling an issue, but we act more as an advisor to other community members who are fighting a local issue, and saying, okay, this is how we go about this. We've got different mechanisms at our disposal for advocacy. So there are times when we're working behind the scenes directly with politicians to shape an issue, to actually shape the language of a bill or a regulation. There are times when we ask all of you to help us, and engage in some letter writing, and some of our issues get very complex. They're not so cut and dry, and so at times we'll even ask you directly what your opinions are. So in the past, we've done things like issue surveys. When was the last one we did? Was that 2018? I think we did a survey.
Are you talking about the census?
Yeah,
that sounds about right. My year's right now in the moment.
Every day is Monday.
But
every day is the start of a new year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's different ways that this takes, and I mentioned there's a difference between where we're focused on something that's governmental versus private. So governmental is like laws or court cases or regulations that come out and say you can't do this or you have to do something this way. On the private side, it manifests more like a financial institution that says, well, we're not so keen on you RVers using a mail forwarding address, to do business with us. So there's ways that this impacts our community, both publicly, government, and privately, with companies not understanding who we are. So yeah, I mean that's it's a basic overview of how we do our advocacy.
Yeah, I mean, it really is all over the place. And I do want to give a shout out to a special person in the chat that I saw. I don't know if she's still here. She may have bounced out already. She is. We are kid free at the moment. Yes. Nana and Pawpaw, Bud and Kathy, my parents, took the kids to go swimming at their pool today. So we're actually kid free for the first time in a very, very long time.
I think this will be the first virtual campfire where Declan doesn't sneak at some point into the
sneak in the background.
So if you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm talking about Kathy. Who really kind of was pretty much the spearhead back in 1998 when advocacy kind of actually became an official service we were going to provide or do on behalf of the community. That's really kind of when it became its own agenda or goal for the company. So she really spearheaded that, and boy, did she have some crazy battles that she had to deal with, and the whole club obviously too, not just her, but she was kind of in the hot seat on a lot of those things, and was as our advocacy lead at the time. So just want to give a shout out to Mom and for all the hard work she's done in the past. If you don't know what Escapees has done, I encourage you to go look at it while you're listening in or after the fact. You can check out the advocacy timeline, historical timeline that we have for the club over on escapees.com under the benefits tab. You can go to RV Advocacy and you can look at all the information there.
Yeah.
It's really great that you gave a shout out to Kathy. Because I just know personally, I've learned just about everything I know about advocacy. I learned from her. a smidge I made up as I went along, but no, really, I mean, just the spirit of advocacy has been so ingrained in our club from the beginning, and we really, all RVers, owe a big debt of gratitude to her. And it's interesting because the advocacy issue that she's most associated with and proud of is a voting rights issue, and it's one where the club fought to protect RVers' right to use mail forwarding locations as their domicile and to vote from that place. So again, doing an overview of advocacy, it can be as seemingly small as a local city ordinance that says you can't park an RV on the street, which we've participated in, all the way up to constitutional law issues like your constitutionally protected right to vote. So I mean, this is like, as an attorney, you hear about these things in law school, you get all the time. So I get super nerdy about all of this because it's like, oh, great, constitutional law. But I mean, it really is the entire spectrum of legal issues get packed into advocacy.
Yeah.
And the job is never done,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's advocacy, like you said earlier, it's really all over the place in the sense of what that means. I mean, obviously with COVID going on, we've put out guidance and recommendations that while it's not, we have talked about keeping our campgrounds open, which was a direct advocacy effort,
Yep.
in that regard. But in addition, we've also just put out policies to help RVers understand the effects that they can have negatively on advocacy as well by, the actions that they do and take, for example, camping out in a Walmart parking lot, putting your awnings out, your slides out, your grills, that's a negative advocacy thing, which is, the good neighbor policy came from.
There are ways to do it and to do it right to protect the longevity of us being able to do that. So,
right. So it's a lot of it's just about educating not only RVers, but also, politicians and officials as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much that it's a lot of education. This is a non-traditional lifestyle, and as much as we are all familiar with it, and it touches our lives every single day in some respect. When you're calling up a politician, and you're trying to explain to them that there's this population of half-crazed people rolling around the country in tin cans. I mean, it's just, already you're trying to, get them up to speed that, oh, wait a minute, there's close to 1 million families that are doing this.
Right.
And oh, wait a minute, it's really not all that, askew from the mainstream when you step back and look at it. And so, another thing is that we try really hard to educate the community on issues and to try to draw some distinctions between you must do this way and really more err on the side of, hey, here's an issue and it's complex and here's some resources or some guidance that you can go through to formulate your own opinions,
right.
and to give you elements to connect with people. And again, and that's when we're using the tool of engaging the public and doing a more grassroots type option. There's a lot of conversations that go on behind the scenes, like I was mentioning before, where we're trying to shape an industry or shape a policy, and sometimes those are difficult conversations. At times they can get difficult. So.
Well, thank you, Tina. Tina, thanks you for your hard work as well as Kathy. So thanks for the comment, Tina. Really appreciate it. And also want to say congratulations to Andre. 45 days or so till you become a full-time RVer, if I'm correct.
Oh.
So congrats,
amazing.
sir. That's awesome.
Yeah, check that out.
Says we appreciate your advocacy. Thanks, Camille.
Awesome. So glad to see you guys. If you do have questions for Shawn or us or regarding advocacy or whatever, really, at this point, it's a campfire. We can chat.
Yeah, pop them in the comments. We kind of monitor it as we go along. And if we can't get into it now, we'll try to address it by the end of the show. But yeah, feel free to participate in the conversation right in the chat.
So you kind of want to move into maybe, Shawn, I mean, we can talk a lot of stuff going on currently. I mean, there's a lot of obviously stuff works in the works now. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that just as a brief overview, or if you
Sure.
want to. Okay.
Sure. So you actually mentioned one that was taking place in the early days of the COVID crisis. Okay, so let me just sort of frame a backdrop here. There was a Washington Post article back in 2018, November of 2018, that estimated the full-time community at about 1 million people. So you got a million households. So you got essentially 9% of the total RVing population is full-time. And then COVID hits. And the governments at all come to us as a nation and say, well, you got to hunker in place. You got to hunker down and shelter in place. And that became the narrative, which is much easier to do if you've got a sticks and bricks place. Okay. So you've got most RVers, if they're going to shelter in place for months on end, they're going to need full hookups in order to do it, most of them. At the same time, we had massive nationwide shutting down of campgrounds. So we very quickly lost access to public lands. State parks were shutting down in droves. The folks at Campendium did a really great resource, and we estimated at some point there was like 50% of the supply of campgrounds in the nation had shut down. And what it did was it created a national game of musical chairs. So you're telling people, shelter in place, don't go anywhere. And then we're going to take away your ability to do just that. And you're going to have to zip around the country, right? Potentially, infecting other communities at the same time. So this was, and it was actually a multi-association initiative. It was us, it was associations like RVIA. So if you're not familiar, that's the RV Industry Associations, manufacturers, RVDA, the Dealer Association, and RVIC, which was campgrounds. And I mean, it was literally getting on the phone every single day and calling politicians, federal, state, local at times, where we could. We were calling county judges and emergency management people, trying to convince them to keep campgrounds deemed essential. And all of the, and the policies that we created for our own parks, which I'm very proud to say, we found a way to keep people safe and keep our parks open to the whole things. We had a good model. We had a good policy sort of rubric for this. And then it was trying to deliver that and getting people, engaged in that.
Yeah. And we actually, that was a good example of a grassroots. We actually did a call upon the membership to go out and contact, their officials, and we helped with that messaging as well.
Provided messaging, and
so
instructions on how to reach those people as well. So,
right. So it's really a lot of times it can be just a team effort. We can only do so much sometimes, and it just it takes
the more voices, the better.
Sometimes it takes 60,000 people picking up the phone and annoying somebody.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, when we're tackling an issue at the federal level, you're dealing with a much smaller population of politicians, so you can be a lot more laser focused. So, and it gets harder at the state level because there becomes more state politicians that you're dealing with, and it becomes really tough when you're at the local level, because now you're talking about thousands and thousands of people that you're trying to convince. And so those are that's an example of an issue. There was the very first issue that I worked on when I came into this position was HUD, Housing and Urban Development. And what HUD was trying to do was they were trying to regulate RVs. They wanted to regulate the manufacturer of RVs. And in their definition, what they were trying to say was that RVs, I'll just skip to the point. They were trying to say that RVs were not, you're not allowed to live in an RV full time. That just, cut through the fluff. And the thing that was tough about that language, and I mentioned this earlier, is that the previous definition that came out of HUD had very similar language in it. So they took their old language and just kind of brought it into their new language. And so, we were fighting, again, a lot behind the scenes. We did engage grassroots at a certain point for letter writing and whatnot, but a lot of it was behind the scenes and shaping that language. That first iteration of HUD language, way back a decade ago, started to show up verbatim in state regulations. And it's it's easy, right? It's easy for a state legislature to go, well, I guess Congress kind of figured this out and they probably debated it a whole bunch, and we'll just grab that language and use it. And plus they're the feds, so they're a higher authority. And so for a lot of reasons, HUD regulating this industry was a problem, but most narrowly focused it was that language. So you see stuff like that. We've done a lot of advocacy on informing the community about federal lands and protecting federal lands. Those conversations get very complex. There's a lot of moving parts to them, but there's legislation that comes up from time to time. What's interesting about that is that, strictly speaking, federal lands, access to federal lands in any way, shape, or form, is not directly an RVers issue. It's not exclusively an RVers issue. But obviously, a great many of us enjoy getting out to state, federal parks, and enjoying those properties. So it's tangential. It's something of interest to the community. So that again is where we try to be a resource and say, hey, here's some information about this. Participate in this conversation if you'd like.
Right. Especially when it affects your lifestyle, like you're saying, that it's something that a lot of RVers use on a weekly, monthly basis. So it's important to them, and having the voice to be able to participate in those conversations and give your input on how that affects your lifestyle is really key and important. Yeah,
and I kind of want to add to that in the sense, we have the Outdoors Act going on kind of currently at the same time. You're talking about the national lands. And that was actually, Georgianne helped us out and said, actually, we did the National Park Survey back in 2019, which was all tied into this current conversation as well. And so I think it's really important to, Escapees is pretty unique in its facet of the membership itself, right? I mean, we have a lot of really long-term experienced RVers in the organization and a lot of full-timers. So Escapees members have a unique lens into kind of seeing and understanding the RV lifestyle, just like why we're not understood in some cases. It goes the other way around too. So I think Escapees has built a name in a sense and a respect. So when we say something and our members imply or provide information, it's respected because of that experience and because of the history. Because Escapees has created a name and understanding within the community of who we are, and it wasn't always that way. And it really matters to have a combined voice. Being one person yelling in a corner just doesn't do much. But when you're a combined effort trying to fight an issue or solve an issue, it goes a lot farther. Is kind of what I want to say, and I think that's a lot of credit goes to the membership and just being such a great resource for the industry as well, that it's really kind of hard to find elsewhere.
And I think one thing that's been really awesome through this whole thing is the respect that our members have for these issues when they're providing us with this feedback. It's constructive criticism, and they truly want to see the change. So they're respectful of, even though there are issues, they want to give the advice to help make it better. And the more respectful and the more collective voices we have, the more I think we're listened to and we're heard, and the change actually happens from that. So,
but I mean, don't lie. We do have a couple of.
We have people with strong worldviews.
But generally, I think every time we send these out, and it could go one way or the other, and it's always nerve-wracking to see what is the response from this going to be. Generally, we really appreciate all the feedback and the words we get of encouragement through these processes as well. But I mean, not to.
I was just cracking a joke. So it didn't seem like we were totally.
But I mean, sensitive subjects, and people do get very passionate about them. So you're absolutely right.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Yeah, and some of them are very complex, and it's there again is where we try to be a resource, and to the best of our ability, and we're all humans, and sometimes we we hit the mark, sometimes miss it, but we really do try to be a resource and say, hey, this issue is going on, think about it.
Right.
And you know, I'll tell you, the members themselves make my job in advocacy so much easier. And I'm thinking, most importantly, the natural spirit of volunteerism amongst our community, to get out and care for lands. I was in a meeting with Department of Interior, and I basically was showing them about Quartzsite and telling them about this community and how we are good stewards of the land. And, you know, essentially you're there, you're asking for a whole heap of money, you know, to make, you know, to do maintenance in federal lands and whatnot. And if somebody's going to invest substantial money, they want to be assured that that money isn't going to be squandered. And so it's really, really wonderful to point to the community and say, well, you know, we got people who work camping, we got people who are going out and doing trash pickups, you know, at the conclusion of their events. Out of our community came the boondocking policy, you know, which is also housed on our website. So if you're not familiar with that, you know, it's a good resource of just, you know, basic do's and don'ts for being on federal lands, on, you know, boondocking, pretty much anywhere. But yeah, it's really the community members who are making our jobs at Escapees much easier. Because if we weren't naturally volunteering, if we didn't have that spirit of caring about the communities that we enter and the lands that we visit, it'd be a lot harder to get things done.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying, it's every RVer's obligation to take a
Yeah,
map.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to what we were talking about earlier. And I see Teal threw a great question in the comments for you, Shawn. And I think it ties in the sense of it's really about doing the right thing as an RVer. And I think, you know, what Teal's talking about is doing domicile right at the same time. You know, there are aspects as a full-time RVer that you just have to do right, so that we don't end up in issues or problems down the road as well, yourself or as a lifestyle. You know, we see that a lot. So,
yes. So to that question, so that leads into domicile, which is just another manifestation of the advocacy that we do. A lot of education here. That's a complex question. The short answer is it's where you intend to permanently return, even after absences, or you know. So if somebody's moving around the country for 3/4 of the year, but their vacation home, because you're allowed to have vacation homes, is in some other part of the country, that ownership of land is not enough on its own to establish domicile. Now, if during that 1/4 of the year you're going to the doctor, right? You're getting your vehicles done. You know, your accountant is there. You know, you got all your mail going there. You know, you start to hit a bunch of other boxes that make you look like if you were suddenly unable to travel, that's where you're going back. Then that's probably where you're voting. That would establish your domicile more fully, and then that's where you should be domicile. Good question.
And this is where it's a team effort too, you know, to that exact same question going on currently is the election, right? So you put together, you know, great information about representatives and those running currently in the runoff. So, and send it out to the Texas Mail Forwarding Service members, because we're encouraging them to learn, understand, and participate, right? As community members of Livingston, we want them to participate, understand the issues, and be a part of the community, right? Because that's their job. So
yes, that's a really great point. So we're going to be we just produced the Texas voter guide, and we're going to be doing voter guides for Florida and South Dakota as we can. In some states, we've missed the primary elections already, so it's just going to be the big national election in November. But you know, there again, that's part of the advocacy in keeping an educated population. If you're going to say that you're domiciled in an area and you're going to be living full time, you have a responsibility not only to your chosen community, but to yourself, to your own domicile story, to be informed and to participate in that community. So to ease that, to make that a little bit more accessible, again, to the best of our ability, we go out, we are absolutely apolitical in this. We give equal opportunity, equal space to people of all political persuasions. We don't endorse or denigrate any politicians or political parties. It's really just give us a statement, we'll put it into our framework and send it out to our members. And we do try to give the membership an idea of like a basic description of the office, because something like county commissioner or county judge may not be all that intuitive as to what that person's job functions are and what you're trying to discern. Are they a good person, a good candidate for that job? So we try to give a little bit of a very neutral explanation of the job and then equal access to the candidates. And that's something that we're going to endeavor to keep doing, going forward.
It's kind of a newer thing that we've been doing. We've always, in Livingston, we've put a little more effort just because the Florida and South Dakota mail service are newer and just not as many members as we have in Texas, anywhere close to. So it's a little bigger population to focus on. And we have a historical thing that we've always done in the Park of Rainbows Inn. So we're just kind of expanding on that too. So kind of moving forward, I think it's important to talk about how do our members get involved in, because a lot of this we can only, we learn what we learn through our avenues, but we also rely heavily on membership to tell us issues that they come across, right? There's no way we can know every state and local. That would be a full-time job. And how much money do we make for advocacy efforts? It's part of your membership. That's literally
so, we just do it out of the goodness of our hearts.
But it's important, we're a total support network for all our viewers, and that is part of your membership dues, is supporting these efforts as well. So how do Shawn, how do you recommend people kind of get involved and let us know if they face issues? I mean, do you have any direct recommendations that help you out as the advocacy leader?
Sure. So here's what we're looking for in the way of advocacy. I'm gonna make my standard disclaimer now, and I'll make it at the end. We cannot fight every fight, and we're not going to win every fight that we fight. But where and how we can, we're always going to advocate for your rights. What we're looking for is something that's going to impact the community. And that's not always clear. Something that might be personal to you might actually be a bigger issue, something that's impacting the entire community. Like, for instance, a financial institution says, we're not going to accept your mail forwarding address. We're not going to give you this credit card or open up this bank account, whatever it is, right? And that's something that's personal to you. It's happening to you as an individual member right now, and you need that resolved in order to move forward. From our lens, that's something that's bigger. Okay, if somebody has a particular defect or something with their RV, maybe that particular defect doesn't rise to the level of something that's impacting the entire community. Not always clear. But we do try to focus our efforts, because again, this is something we're doing out of the goodness of our hearts. There's myself and Travis and Melanie and Kathy, and there's a couple other people in the club that we utilize as a resource, but there's not a great deal of us. So that's my point. So the first thing to do is really try to be honest. Is this something that's happening to you and you need to resolve it yourself, or seek your own legal counsel on, or is this truly something that's going to impact a lot of our viewers, the community at large? Best way to get a hold of us, actually, you can email clubbusiness@escapees.com. You could call into our service center. You can email me directly, sloring@escapees.com. You can send us a carrier pigeon. Smoke signals are fine too. I mean, pretty much, if you've got an issue, we're gonna hear it, and we'll be honest with you if it's something that we can't undertake.
There's also is there a submission form on the advocacy website?
So when everybody goes and learns more about the history after this, they'll see the form.
You didn't have to give your email out publicly to 100,000 people. No, I'm kidding.
Enjoy that email again.
Cell phone number.
Yeah.
And his address.
No, but if
I you guys know I keep an open door. Email me anytime you want. The other thing to note, so member submissions can take pretty much any form. I've had people just actually write us a note and stick it in the mail,
Yeah.
and do it that way. Do know this, that advocacy issues take a while. There's usually a lot of back and forth with the other party. So some people come in and they're hoping like, oh, you just pick up the phone call. You just pick up the phone, make a call, and in a week or two, it's done. Typically, advocacy issues take months to resolve.
Yeah.
So just in setting expectations, that's something else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of hours.
I'm trying to see.
Into that. Yeah, there was a comment from Bill.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Bill. I don't know if you missed it earlier, but we talked about a little bit about the past histories. There's honestly too much to talk about. I really recommend that you go to the link that's directly above your comment, and there you will actually see the step-by-step timelines of what the issue started, the progress, and what the outcomes were.
Right.
There are major issues such as the right to vote in Texas that was directly won because of Escapees.
For mail forwarding members, which
Right.
is full-time RVers.
Right. So there's been several issues over the years. There's a lot of great information on that webpage. We're actually behind a couple, probably a year or so.
That's my fault.
But well,
No,
it's not like we've been busy. Haven't been busy.
No, there's nothing going on.
Yeah, right.
These days.
But there is a lot of great history there, date back to, like I said, 1998, of just information. So, and it's kind of honed down. It's not like a reading something crazy. It's pretty short.
Easy to follow. Yeah.
But I hope that helps, Bill. Let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one other thing I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was. I don't know if we talked about this yet, but you can also learn about all these advocacy issues that happen through our club news, which you can sign up for.
Member
There's
news.
a link on that webpage as well. But we'll send
Most
out
of the
updates.
times, member news is the first place you're going to hear about these issues that are directly affecting our members,
Yes.
and learn the resources. Like Shawn is saying, we try to provide these things for you to come to your own conclusion, but give you all the information you need to do so. So we'll post that information there. If it's time for you to get involved and take action on an item, we'll let you know through that as well. And we do post updates on our website and on our social media channels. But member news is really the best way to stay the most up to date and informed.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something else to be said about advocacy because, it's your rights to interact with your government. So very, very specifically to government actions and whatnot. Don't be surprised if you contact a representative, a senator, etc., and you're meeting with a staff person.
Mm-hmm.
It's very common that you're not going to talk to the actual representative, and that's okay. When you're looking at advocacy, they're going to rely on their staff person to interpret and make into digestible information packets your issue. And so if you're writing letters, if you're contacting your representatives, wherever they may be, my best advice is be concise. Okay, be very, very clear, and try to be kind. These are issues that we're, whatever issue it is, if it's giving you rise to contact your government, it's probably something you're passionate about. If you remember the old Joe Friday, just the facts, ma'am, that really goes a long way. You want to be able to distill your story down to 30 seconds, and have it clear and repeatable.
Yeah. And that just kind of reminded me, through that we talked a little about the park closures issue and how that was one of the ones where we asked you, the members, to take action and provided sample letters and urged you to contact those politicians. And at the same time, like you're saying, keep it brief and keep it to the point, because they were busier than ever during that time frame. And
absolutely.
The fact that we were asking 60, 70,000 people to pick up the phone and call only adds to their plate. So the more consistently they're hearing the same message, the more it's going to stick with them, and that they can make that change happen. So yeah, definitely.
And I was going to say,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for our own benefit too, we were talking about, submitting in information. I remember what I was going to say is, if you do send something to us, club news, whatever it is, do try to provide information enough that gives us the ability to do some research, because if it is a sensitive topic or something that's urgent, the quicker we can find the resources or background to that information, the better it helps us out. So a little detail and kind of, either a link, whatever it is, that's not obviously personal information.
Yeah. Well, for submissions to us, the more information, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
And then we'll follow up. Shawn, you follow up with more questions if you haven't. But I assume it helps you a lot to have kind of that full picture and resource, and where are you finding this issue? Like, where did this issue come from? Is this something you had directly? Is it an article you found? Where's this coming from? So,
absolutely,
just keep that in mind too.
No, that's a really, really great point. If it's something that's public, so a government entity is disadvantaging RVers, I would need to know the law or the regulation that's being cited against you. And something similar in the private world, where again we see a lot of, you can't use a mail forwarding service address. That seems to be a very common one. It's really helpful when a member contacts me and says, I'm having this issue, if they can say, and this is why they're saying I can't use this mail forwarding address, and try to draw out of the entity that's creating the impediment, where's their pain point, so that we can be a lot more laser focused. You brought up that COVID issue with the parks closing down. I suspect that in the wake of everything that's happened, I think that there's more conversation to be had nationally about that one topic, because somewhere in the midst of COVID, the world went, oh, RVs, they're self-contained. I can social distance. I can be outside. And it's almost like the world had this light bulb moment, or at least the country had a light bulb moment. And I'm hoping that the conversation continues, so we can talk to state and federal entities, at least at a minimum, and say, hey, if we ever have to do this again, and God willing, we won't have to, but if we ever do, can we just say that campgrounds are essential?
Right. Yeah.
Especially for certain circumstances, maybe there's stipulations to what that means. We're not just saying that everybody should just go travel around the country. And but there should be situational,
hunker. If you're going to say shelter in place, let's leave these open with some parameters so that people can do that.
So anyway. Before we kind of wrap it up, Shawn, unless you have any points, we can chat a little bit and give some time for everyone to ask some questions.
We can
just kind of start closing it out and talking while we wait for questions and go from there. That sounds good.
Sounds good.
If you have any questions, now's the time.
And Shawn, did you have any other major points you felt needed to be addressed before we start closing up, or?
I'd be interested to know what questions we get out of the chat channel. I think we had a pretty good overview.
Well, in the meantime, you want to tell us what's happening next? Go over again what's happening next week?
Yeah, so as we said earlier at the beginning, if you missed it, next Wednesday for the Virtual Wednesdays event, JP Smith, our Convergence Director for Escapeers, is going to be hosting a little happy hour of sorts where him and a few other staff members will be mixing up. Well, I can get on there and pour a glass of wine, but I don't think they're going to enjoy that. They're going to be mixing up some cocktails, and I believe they're going to try to share some of the ingredients beforehand if you want to mix along with them. It should be a lot of fun. But yeah, that'll be next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time.
And I don't think we know if we're making a drink yet or not. Yeah. We submitted, but I don't know if
catch us on there.
We'll see what happens.
I can make a good Cosmo. Does anybody want?
And then after that, we'll have the Virtual Campfire over on the Escapeers page. You didn't say that already, did you?
No, I did not. The next
we'll have the Virtual Campfire the following week over on the Escapeers page, and we're going to have JP join us again for that. And maybe talk a little bit about Annual Bash and have some special guests on for Escapeers.
Yes, we have some really special guests for that one. Can't wait to announce some stuff for that following this.
But it looks like Jamie has a question for you, Shawn. It's a domicile question, and it's a good one. Jamie, there's not going to be a short answer to this one, and we've. My law partner, Susie Adams, gives free consultations to RVers. So you can find some information about her again on the escapees.com website. The short answer is, if you are truly disconnecting from the state of Washington, so you're going to go full time and you're breaking ties with that state, then you have to have a domicile. You always have one and only one domicile. Whether you know it or not, whether you want it to be or not, you will always have one. So if Washington isn't suiting your needs for whatever reason, then yes, I would encourage you to find a state that does suit your needs. We have some, again, resources on escapees.com that will give you some of the basics of it, and other materials like Susie's presentations and such will help you. But domicile is going to be where you intend to permanently return. I said this earlier, even after temporary absences. What you're doing is you're saying, this is, if I can't RV anymore, this is where I'm going to go. And so you're going to want to get your driver license, vehicle registration, voter registration. You're going to need an address to do it, and that's why mail forwarding services are so popular in our community. To get those other documents, got to have that address. And then you're going to have your other social concerns, like the professionals you interact with, where your estate planning documents point to, where your stuff is. Quite honestly, you're going to have a lot of stuff that isn't going to fit in that RV. Your grandma's antique hutch, it ain't coming with you. And if it's in a storage container back in Washington, well, that might be something you need to look at. So, like I said, no fast answer on that one, Jamie, but there are some resources out there, and escapees.com has pulled them, or Escapees RV Club through escapees.com has pulled them together for you. Yeah. So I hope that helps.
Yeah.
You always, it's like the domicile questions. Just
I know, they gravitate to you.
Yes.
You're never getting away from domicile.
I'm never getting away from domicile.
Awesome. Well, I do want to thank, while we're waiting for any last questions, Bill, Andre, Tina, Jamie, for your questions and participation so far, and
everyone who's just
everyone
watching
else
too,
who's just watching and here to join us in some conversation. So,
and Shawn, thank you so much. Like, as always,
it's my pleasure.
Unfortunately, we'll probably see you tomorrow.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, I'm coming to a Zoom meeting near you.
No, it's all good. But we do thank you, sir. And we thank you all for joining. And if you're watching the replay, come join on the next one.
Yeah. Hope you all have a
great day. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Bye. Stay safe.